Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a couple of weeks. I'm very sorry for that. I didn't really plan to take a bunch of time off at Christmas, but it just kind of happened. I didn't really have the motivation to talk about the overskill system for Payday 3 when it was announced, and it just kind of went on from there, so I took a bit of time off, and I will probably talk about the system still sometime in January. But for most of you, it should be New Year's Eve when you see this video. Maybe people in Australia and New Zealand are just into 2025, but I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and you have a great New Year, and I really am truly grateful to you all for the love and support I've had throughout 2024. It really does mean the world to me. But if you missed my recent discussions, this is the start of a new era for Red Archer Live content, that being 2 videos a week, one being non-Payday and one being Payday. That is obviously going to be subject to change and based on the news we get for Payday and also the ideas I have for non-Payday content, so maybe it will be less than that on certain weeks, but that's the goal I'm setting at the start of this year, and hold me to it. I want to see how well I stick to it. But my plan is the non-Payday videos on Tuesdays, today, and the Payday videos on Fridays. Maybe it'll move around from there. But today's, I think, is the most appropriate day to start because it's my roundup of all the games I played and either loved or didn't like so much in 2024. A lot of these are games that came out this year, some are games that didn't, because it's the same thing I did last year in 2023. I put it up on the second channel, but feel free to go watch it and see what I thought about games in that year. But like in that video, I'm going to talk you through a bunch of games that I played either in release date order or for older games when I played them in the year, and just give my overall thoughts on them and rank my game of the year as we go. And it's interesting because I liked quite a few games I played this year. I don't know if I have any definitive 10 out of 10s that I've been playing, but I've pretty much decided on my game of the year, and it may surprise people, so we'll see where we go with this. But either way, let's go through everything I played and or enjoyed in 2024. It will all be timestamps, so if there's anything you want to hear me talk about specifically, feel free to skip ahead and do so. So let's start off with a game that had a solid grip on me at the end of 2023, and that grip did not loosen for the first 3 months of 2024. Baldur's Gate 3. I'm not going to spend much time on this because I said that in the 2023 video. I did a specific review for Baldur's Gate 3, also on the second channel. I wish it had been on this channel, and that's one of my biggest regrets with that video. But I've already said this before, it became my favorite game of all time. I don't really think that's changed. It is just unlike anything I've ever played, with the amount of effort, scope, detail, soundtrack, character performance, everything on every level is fantastic with that game. And basically everything I said in 2023 still holds. I just wanted to mention it in this video because I literally was only playing that game pretty much the entire time until March of the year, so it would be remiss of me to not mention that because, you know, that was a big part of me playing this year, and I've been playing it a bit since, got back into it again this month, so it's just constantly haunting me in the best way possible. Larian really just cooked up an all-time with that one, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future, even though it's probably a very long way off. But the next proper thing, ironically, isn't even a new game. It was the remastered release of The Last of Us Part 2 that I'm only really mentioning because of the no return mode that came in that. Just wants to say that I played that when it came out and absolutely loved it. That was a really fun roguelike mode in that game where you basically would survive across different maps, either against humans or infected, and it was just really, really fun to play through. I enjoyed it a lot and thought it was nice. I don't know much about the graphical upgrade between the base game and the remaster. I've been in the camp since I played that game of saying that it kind of looked like a PS5 game anyway on a PS4. The graphics were kind of unreal in that game, and they didn't really change much from my view, from the naked eye, but I'm sure you could give me the technical specs and say that they got a lot better, or just having the 4K 60 option was probably a step up, but either way, it's a fantastic game. I still really love it. If you don't like Last of Us Part 2, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to shove mine down your throat. I already did a review on it where you can see my thoughts if you want to know about them, but I like the game. I had a good time with it, and it's nice to just have it on a PS5 remastered. I think the best thing about it, though, was that they actually allowed you to buy the upgrade for £10 if you own the base game, because if they just charged a flat $60, $70 for that again, it would have been a joke. So I really do like that they went, you know what, let's just make it a 10 quid upgrade and throw in a mode so it makes it a bit more worthwhile, and then no one's really going to complain too much. That was a good call. I appreciate that. But finally, first actual new release of the year, Helldivers 2, and I've got to thank Takaius in my Discord / Twitch / YouTube community because he actually gifted me the Super Citizen version of this game. He bought it for me, so it's thanks to him that I've even played this game, so thank you to him for doing that. But Helldivers 2 came out in February. I think I picked it up around the March time, but I just want to shout this out because it was really fun to play. I will say I've not played nearly enough of this game this year. I streamed it a couple of times and I've played it a few times with friends, but I think mainly with it just being a PS5 game, there are some PS5 games I just don't play enough because it's kind of like I buy this console for the exclusive games console, if that makes sense. Most of my stuff is on my Xbox, so I need to just dedicate more time to putting on the PS5 and picking that game up, because it's nothing against that. But to sum it up, it is basically just a really, really fun multiplayer game, the likes of which you don't get a lot of these days. It's just something that is really, really enjoyable. You can squad up with friends and just kind of have fun, and it is as simple as that. It doesn't sound like anything that mind-blowing if the best you can say is it's just fun with friends, but sometimes that's all you need with a game, and Helldivers is the epitome of that. It's such a fun time, and if you genuinely are looking for something fun to play with your friends that's on a PS5 or a PC, that is probably the multiplayer game I would recommend most this year. I think it's been an absolute blast to play, and I'm gonna try and put more time into it in 2025 because I'd like to play more and get to a high level and just experience more what the game has to offer. I know it put out a brand new update a month or so ago that allowed you to actually go onto Super Earth. I think it might have been a DLC. Whatever it is, I definitely will check it out. Haven't done so yet, but looking forward to doing that. Next on my list was the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection on March 14th. Oh, what happened here, man? What happened? I think since it came out, there have been a lot of improvements with servers, but I was excited for this to come out purely because I loved those classic Battlefront games, especially Battlefront 2. I just absolutely loved that 2005 version of the game, and it was really fun to get to revisit that, and it's cool to have access to the campaigns on a proper, more modern console. But the servers did not cope well at launch at all. It was a bit of a nightmare to play online. I'm hoping things have tidied up by now, but realistically, most people probably aren't even playing it anymore. I'll check it out at some point, but I fear that the people who play this at launch are probably steered away from it and haven't come back, so even if the servers do work now, it might be because not enough people are playing it. Hopefully I'm wrong on that, but either way, I just hope that it's a more worthwhile package now. The idea of the collection was a cool one, just don't think it quite turned out the way it should. Next up is Viewfinder, a game that I think came out in 2023, but I only picked it up in April of 2024 because of the BAFTA Game Awards, because I saw a few mentions of it in there. It picked up a couple of awards on the night, and I really like the idea of a puzzle-solving game involving taking Polaroid pictures, because if you don't already know, I'm a bit of a Polaroid nerd. I love taking pictures of those. It's only because of Life is Strange, but I really like the idea of it, and I never finished it. We had a bit of a tradition in the 2023 video where there were quite a few games where I went, I never finished this, and I should have done, and Viewfinder's the first one of those this year. But yeah, I thought it was a really fun one, really creative. Need to finish the game, but if you want one of those kind of chill puzzle-solving games that kind of makes you think a bit outside the box, but also you feel really rewarded for having completed those puzzles, it's a perfect game to pick up and try. Really, really enjoyed it, and you know, if you're a photograph nerd like me or a Polaroid nerd like me, perfect one for you. Really, really fun time. Next up on April 26th, it is a game that absolutely blew up on PS5 and has a very specific community to it. Let's talk a bit about Stellar Blade, because I kind of wish I'd done a review for this game, but the thing with Stellar Blade, without being too untoward, is that a lot of the community are just incredibly horny. Let's just put it out bluntly, and nothing wrong with that. More power to you, but I'm not the biggest fan of horny games. I'm not really into that market, you know. I'm not like asexual or something. I don't need to go into loads of detail here, but I just don't play games for super attractive characters. It's not really my kind of thing. But Stellar Blade interested me mainly because I caught a trailer for it in January of 2024 when I was actually waiting for a trailer for Shadow Generations, and something about the vibe of it just looked really, really good. For one thing, the lead character Eve being voiced by Rebecca Hansen, who plays Althea in Baldur's Gate 3, that was a draw for me. But having the soundtrack sounding really good from the trailers, the gameplay looked good, I kind of like the idea of the vibe, and I picked it up when it came out and didn't play it in full until October. I played about half to two-thirds of the game when it came out, and then I got distracted by all the crime boss Rockay City and then Payday 3 stuff happening across the summer, and didn't pick it back up again till October. But I finally finished the game then, and I gotta tell you, I had such a good time with it. I really loved the combat, loved the setting, as I said, the soundtrack, the tone. A few critiques, some of the voice direction I don't think was amazing. There was a couple of characters in particular that I don't think were well directed on the English dub. Apparently there are some comments I've seen, especially on SkillUp's review. So people have commented saying that typically with these games that are made in other languages like Korean, when you get the English dub, they're not quite as well directed, whereas when you listen to the core language, the original one, the voice acting is off the charts. And apparently Stellar Blade is very much another case of that, so fair play there. But I found myself having more fun with this game than I kind of expected to in some ways, and I was really excited for it anyway, but I just had a blast with it. Really enjoyed that environment, that world, and that soundtrack. And Stellar Blade, I will say up front right now, is my game of the year. It's not a 10 out of 10. I think I settled on an 8 out of 10 at the end of my review. I just want to recommend it as a genuinely interesting and well-paced game. I really enjoy it. I think if you've played Nier Automata, though, there's a lot of story beats that are copied between the two games there. Haven't played Nier, so I can't really comment on that, although I did see, again, in SkillUp's review of it, there was just this really funny interview of the directors of Nier Automata and Stellar Blade, both just kind of having a know your games better conversation, which I just love. Can we have more positivity like that in the gaming industry? I feel like we really need it these days. But yeah, Stellar Blade, fun combat, fun setting, fun soundtrack, fun tone, really, really good time if you want to get lost in kind of a different futuristic world. I mean, post-apocalyptic stuff is 10 a penny these days, but I had a particularly good time with that game, and I know a sequel's coming, and I'm excited to see what they do with that. So there you go. That's probably going to be my game of the year. Stellar Blade. Didn't think I'd be saying that at the start of the year. And yeah, here we are. But speaking of Crime Boss, let's use this time now to talk briefly about Crime Boss Rockay City, because I talked about this in 2023, and if you see my video for 2023, you'll know I wasn't super positive about the game, more because I said it didn't really have staying power. It was a fun concept, but I didn't really find myself coming back to it very much, and I think that's changed a little bit this year, mainly because I did that review at the start of the year, and it is still the biggest video I uploaded this year on Red Archer Live, which is crazy to think for a channel most known for Payday, but some really good quality of life updates, getting a Steam release in June engagement really helped a lot, and just that general extra push from YouTubers and players and fans of Payday who weren't getting what they wanted from Payday 3 generally, just made that game reappear on radars. And you definitely have some people who are saying, oh, the game was always fun and you weren't paying attention, or people who came to it then and said it's still not very fun. But I definitely think Crime Boss really has established itself this year as a fun alternate heisting game that isn't just a Payday-like, it actually does feel more like its own thing, even if some things are similar to Payday. But realistically, we only say Payday-like because Payday's the only real successful heisting game, other than like GTA 5, that managed to establish a proper decent audience, at least that I'm aware of. So when you have another heisting game, it kind of automatically becomes the comparison to that game. If there were several heisting games that were big on the market, you'd just be like, it's a heisting game, rather than it's a Payday-like. So that's an interesting narrative I've seen handled over the course of the last 12 months, or more like 6 or 7 since I made my video on it. But either way, I think Crime Boss is really worth picking up, and the price is now, they dropped the price towards the end of the year, made the DLCs free a bunch of times, but I think it's like £20 to pick up the game now, and trust me, it's well worth that price, RRP. I think, honestly, they're almost undervaluing it, to be honest with you. I think it's a really fun time. Won't appeal to everybody, but it's a bit more of an arcadey version of a Payday-style heist shooter. If you can get over the kind of cringy dialogue, but it's kind of the so bad it's good, like Morbius-style dialogue that I've talked about before, I think you'll have a good time with it. I really, really do enjoy my time with Crime Boss. I definitely should have played more of it in the latter end of the year. There's been quite a few updates that have come out that I've been meaning to check out and just haven't got around to, but that is by no means me saying I'm not interested, it's just not getting around to it. I definitely recommend it. It's one of the games I would recommend more this year. I really had fun playing it. I'd also like to spend a brief bit of time talking about Fortnite, because I don't really do it very much on this channel, and Fortnite still kind of has a bit of a stigma, I think, at least among some people in the Payday audience, that it just isn't a very fun game. Thankfully, nowhere near as bad as it was in like 2019, 2020, where it was so trendy to hate Fortnite. I'm just going to come out and say it. Fortnite is the game I go back to the most to have fun, like, as an ongoing live service multiplayer game. You know, Fortnite set a precedent for a lot of games to copy with battle passes and in-game currencies. It didn't do everything first in that game, but a lot of the ways in which Fortnite operates have been copied by other games. And while I think a lot of games have done them badly, like Call of Duty, etc., I don't think that devalues how Fortnite's done it. I'm not some big Fortnite super worshipper, but I think the way their game works has always been fairly decent, apart from the odd mishap and, you know, misleading sales, etc. Let's not go there. But I think having a game you can constantly go back to and have fun is always nice, and Fortnite's been that for me. But in the last year especially, since they'd started their Find It in Fortnite campaign, they released LEGO Fortnite, and especially Fortnite Festival. I didn't play Guitar Hero growing up. It was always one of those things I never had the kit for or the right console for at the right time, so I always kind of heard about it or saw friends playing it and thought, I'd love to try that. Having a way I can access it just with a remote is so fun, and I absolutely love playing Fortnite Festival. And the only reason that I've mentioned this now at this point in the video is because I wanted to time it with the Chapter 5 Season 4 release, which was on August 16th of this year, because it was the second Marvel season, and probably the peak of the game of the year for me, because I really, really enjoyed playing that Marvel season. It was just really good fun. But generally, if you're one of those people who thinks Fortnite is just a really cringy game, but you haven't actually checked it out in the last couple of years, give it another shot. There's some good stuff to it, and I just constantly have fun going back, checking out what's new, picking up the odd skin here and there, and it's always a game I'll just say to my friends, do you want to play Fortnite? And we'll just hop on. And I don't think there's enough multiplayer games like that right now. I can't even say Helldivers, because my friend group's on Xbox mostly, so I can't just say, let's hop on Helldivers, but I can say, let's hop on Fortnite, and that's fun. I like having a game that I can fall back on like that, and it's been that for a long time, and it deserves more credit. It's kind of like this huge game that doesn't get enough love in certain places, I think. It's not some masterpiece, but it's worth playing, and I just wanted to mention it a little bit here. One thing that might really surprise you, especially with a new edition in the background there, is that this year was the first time I played Sonic Adventure 2. There are some Sonic games I just did not play in, like, at certain points. Again, not having the right console or being at the wrong time, whatever it may be. Heroes, Riders are more my thing. I kind of miss the Adventure era. And I've played Adventure 1, thought it was perfectly fine. And I've played the hero story of 2. For some reason, haven't played Dark yet, which, for a huge Shadow lover like me, that's kind of a bit weird. But I had fun playing the hero story for Sonic Adventure 2. I do think not having nostalgia for it makes it a little bit less enjoyable. Maybe that's a hot take, but it's a perfectly fun game, and I want to just chronicle that I played it. You know, it clearly set a bit of an era for Sonic, especially with the introduction of Shadow, and I can never thank that game enough for doing that. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that I played it, and I will play Dark soon, and maybe I'll mention that in the 2025 video, who knows. But one day after I finished Sonic Adventure 2 was the release of Star Wars Outlaws on August the 30th, which was a very interesting one, because this game did not perform particularly well critically or commercially. I came out of it saying it was pretty damn fun, and I still stand by that statement. I think out of every Star Wars game I've played, it is the most immersive Star Wars universe universe. You feel most like you're in a Star Wars world playing that game than any other. Not to say it's like a disservice like playing the Jedi games, because the Jedi games are phenomenal, and Jedi Survivor is still, I think, probably the best Star Wars game I've played. I adore it, I really, really do. But it just captured that Star Wars world unlike anything I'd really seen. Definitely think the story could have been better, and some game mechanics like stealth were not great, but things have improved over the course of the game's life. I definitely think there is a case to make that they shouldn't be improved over the game's life, and they should just be perfect when the game comes out. Far too many games just get away with making things better later on and then being looked back on fondly. But I don't know, I feel like the hate was overblown in some ways for Star Wars Outlaws, but maybe that's just perspective, and maybe it's my relentless optimism talking. It's not a perfect game, it's not my game of the year, but I had fun with it. And I also do have to give a little bit of credit. I know not everyone loves Ubisoft right now. There's a lot of reasons for that. I fully understand that. But just as a content creator, it was the first time I got a really big AAA game early and got to play it in full to make a review, and just for that alone I really appreciate Ubisoft for that, because I just haven't really had much chances like that. I've been giving review keys for like streams, sure, but that was a really special moment and I was really grateful to them for that. It obviously did not impact my review. I think people might be suspicious that it did. Just for me as a content creator, that achievement of knowing I got to play it early meant a lot, and I'm definitely gonna be looking for more of those moments in 2025, because it was really nice to say, hey, I'm playing this game early, you can see my review when the embargo drops. That was nice, and thankfully was one of 2 times I got to do that this year, but we'll get to the other in a little bit. Because next up, we're talking about Shadow the Hedgehog again, in a game that I didn't finish until yesterday, Shadow Generations, or Sonic X Shadow Generations. Now, I will say right off the bat, Sonic Generations is one of those games I have owned in the past, but never finished. It's partially because I don't love Sonic Generations layout. I have never been the biggest fan of classic Sonic levels in the 3D games. They work a lot of the time, the momentum's fairly decent in some of them, like Generations in particular, and some of the Sonic Frontiers ones are good, some of the Shadow Generations ones are good, but when I'm playing a modern Sonic game, I want to be in that 3D world and run through a 3D environment. I don't really love being forced into a 2D one, but also I don't love that the boss gates are locked behind challenges. You have to play a couple of acts, then you gotta play challenges, then you can fight a boss, then it rinse and repeat. I feel that kills momentum ever so slightly. That is something that does harm Shadow Generations for me, and I didn't love that game as much as everyone else did. Maybe it's because I'm just a Shadow snob and I wanted a longer game. I finished it in 3.5 hours and kind of felt like there could have been more to it, but I love that we got what we got, and I love that Shadow is finally becoming a more central character again, and I kind of just hope this game, much like Frontiers, serves as the stepping point for a new era of that character. I think it'd be a really, really cool thing to see. But I definitely think the game was a bit too short, and I just did not love the pacing of it. The fact that you could play these levels as Shadow, but then also have to spend time doing tons of challenges just to fight bosses. When it got to the Mephiles boss fight, I was just like, oh, I've got to do 4 more challenges and do these gates and get these keys, and then after that, it just went straight into the end game. I just didn't love the pacing. And the idea of new Doom abilities was a cool concept, but I think there were a few too many to be interesting. Did not like the Squid one at all. That was just a hassle. Maybe I wasn't very good with it, but kind of felt a bit like Sonic Superstars to me, where some of the abilities in there just felt a bit surplus to requirements, where you could have just had a couple of abilities and just had most of it around the running and the odd ability, and it would have been fine. This is a hot take, I know. Most people gave this game like 9 out of 10. That's perfectly fine, but for me, it's a solid 7. Love playing as Shadow. Love some of the story beats with Maria, Gerald, and getting to see those characters and explore them more, but definitely could have been a little bit stronger. But you can tell right throughout that it's done with love for the character, and that's enough to sell me in a lot of ways, so I can really give it credit for that. Next one on the list is one that, wow, sentiment has changed very recently with regards to this game over the course of the last couple of months. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, a game that I did plan to make a video on before the year ended, but honestly, the way this game is derailed genuinely needs to be studied. I played Black Ops 6 from the day it came out. Didn't love the beta when I first played it, but especially Zombies have played it non-stop, and within about 2 or 3 weeks, I was Prestige Master. I've never done that with a Call of Duty game before, but I was so hooked on playing Black Ops 6, especially the Zombies, that I was really loving my time with it and leveling up, and it was really, really cool to play. But man, it's gone off a cliff. You've got actors playing Zombies characters being recast due to AI negotiations, including Maxis, a voice actress who has played that character since like 2010 or something, gone, replaced in a recent update, and all of her old voice lines replaced by someone else. You've got the AI slop constantly being thrown at us from different wallpapers, like a zombie Santa with 6 fingers and all sorts of hideous stuff like that. And now there's rumors there's going to be a Squid Game crossover with a paid battle pass just trying to copy Fortnite, but Fortnite doesn't have a $70 price tag for entry. It's just... oh man, I was really enjoying Black Ops 6 when it came out, and that's why I wanted to make a video, but the more stuff that's come out since the game released, the more I've felt like I just don't want to touch it with a 10-foot barge pole. Hopefully I'll actually feel like playing it soon again and talking about it, but it's a real shame that not just my own opinion, but general community-wide sentiment I've seen has really shifted on this, because it came out with a very well-received campaign that I've not tried yet. I don't always tend to play COD campaigns as soon as they come out. I just kind of pick them up when I feel like it, but I've heard great stuff about it. Multiplayer is fine. It's not one of the best. It's not one of the worst. I have a bit bit of fun with the hardcore specifically, but especially zombies. Black Ops 6 in its structure and layout is up there with Cold War and Black Ops 3 as some of my favorite zombies experiences in COD. I really hope that the game becomes overall a bit more enjoyable. I hope that the AI strikes can be resolved and that Activision can actually let the actors who played the characters in previous games come back and voice them. Just doesn't feel fun to play Black Ops 6 right now, and I really hope I can look back on these particular comments in a few months and go, at least that changed. That's good. Who knows though? We'll find out. But speaking of disappointments, Payday 3. Okay, right, look, that was dramatic. Fair enough. But this is the best time to talk about Payday 3 because October 30th, a couple of days after Black Ops 6's launch, was when the second half of the anniversary update came out, and for me, marked the biggest low point I've had with this game. And there have been a few this year. Several months at the start of the year where there were no updates, bar one that gave you an unready button that was touted as this big feature that really just was the epitome of how Payday fans were feeling at the time and sent me into about a 2 or 3 month spiral of very negative content. Or you've got the ammo funnel debacle that ended very badly for a number of people, not to mention the stuff that I found myself facing, which, like I said, is in the past, but it did still happen. And then this in particular, when the update came out and I found I was no longer able to play the game without it having hideous stuttering that made me want to vomit, and basically couldn't play on my preferred platform until a couple of weeks ago, so a 2-month gap-ish. It's just... Payday 3 really has a chance to pull people back, but it feels like every chance it had got squandered. Every time they would say, let us cook, every time there was an update that had some really good stuff, either the update would also have a bunch of bad stuff to undo it, or not long after they shoot themselves in the foot with a giant 12-gauge shotgun. And it just kept happening over and over and over again. And you can't help but feel how many more chances they deserve to get if they keep saying, let us cook, and keep doing stupid things. Now, not all of these are down to the devs, and I've said this time and time again, the Starbreeze devs are trying their best, and I will continue to say that, but my goodness, the fact that we don't have enough people on Payday 3 now to get hotfixes out timely, they never really were, but especially now that a quarter of Starbreeze's devs are making a Payday PUBG crossover, people are moving to Backstep, people being laid off. Starbreeze executives, as I've said a million times, don't seem to care for Payday 3 despite saying they do, and if they really do, they're not showing it or listening to the fans. So honestly, I leave 2024 feeling about as low for Payday 3 as I have in a long time. I was excited for First World Bank and I gave that update a good review, but after the dust had settled, I kind of thought maybe I was too nice to it because I'm thinking, I don't really play the game and not many people are playing the game, and I don't feel like we've really changed that much in a year. We started to see an upward trend, but when you compare the end of 2023, Payday 3 to the end of 2024, sure, there's been more content, sure, there's been good content added and some decent sized updates towards the end of the year, but is community sentiment really that different? I don't know, and I just don't know if it's going to change. I hope it will, but man, I don't go into next year feeling optimistic, and I really hope I get proven wrong, but Payday 3, genuinely, for all the jokes and the exaggerations, has overall disappointed me this year in just seeing that it could have done better and just hasn't. There's been a lot of effort and a lot of love and a lot of heart put in, and I hope that Almir and Andreas can steer the ship in a better direction with what the resources they're given, because let's face it, they're not being given enough to work with, but they're trying their damnedest. I just hope that it's enough next year. I really, really do, but time will tell, man. Time will tell. Coming towards the end of the year, and we have Life is Strange Double Exposure that came out in the middle of November, and it's been a crazy time to be a Life is Strange fan. This game came out, had a lot of fuss over it, a lot of people saying they didn't like it, and for very valid reasons, I'll be honest, but it's also the fact that it kind of just went very quiet from the fandom like 2 weeks after this game came out, and I really didn't expect that. Even for a game that was kind of as middly received as this, it just feels like no one's really discussing it anymore, and that's the biggest kicker with this game. I did a full review for this game previously, and it was the other one like Star Wars Outlaws where I was fortunate enough to get a full copy of the game before launch, so Square Enix, especially because of how much Life is Strange means to me, I don't want it to come across like me getting a copy early pays for my review. It really doesn't, but as someone who's like a smaller to medium content creator, getting that kind of access, especially to a franchise I love so much, that really does mean the world to me. So getting to play it was a great time, but I just don't feel like it was as strong as it could have been. The latter chapters were very weak. The romance I don't think was perfectly executed despite being very well written at times. There's been arguments that Max has not been well written, and I completely disagree with those. It lacks some of the things that made the first Life is Strange game good, but it is nowhere near the train wreck people make it out to be. It's a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's not amazing, but it really isn't that bad. And I'm just sad to see that the reaction it got and presumed bad performance commercially has sent Deck 9 into a bit of a spiral with a whole bunch of layoffs. I just hope that the next Life is Strange game that presumably is still happening, they teased another one at the end of Double Exposure, and there was actually some NDA survey research happening in London last month where people were paid to come and give their thoughts on like the future of the franchise or something. Hopefully that does actually yield fruit in another Life is Strange game. What that will be, who knows? Although I really can't see another Life is Strange game releasing without Chloe Price, because man, that was the biggest complaint this game got, and if she'd been in the game, you have to wonder how much better received it would have been. Max should be able to have a standalone adventure, but even a few more Chloe scenes would have made a world of difference, definitely. Who knows? I had my fun with the game. I can understand a lot of the criticism. I definitely think some people are taking it way too seriously, but that's just my opinion, you know, you like it or you lump it. I had fun with it. Definitely could have been better, but overall, perfectly fine, and worth playing if you're a big Life is Strange fan. If you're not sure at all, pick it up on sale. Definitely for the Ultimate Edition though. 30 quid more for cat content, not worth it. And the last game that came out this year that I actually played a decent amount of that I want to talk about was Marvel Rivals at the start of December. Just because it was a really fun game to play, like Overwatch, but not quite as annoying as Overwatch, which is nice. I don't mind Overwatch, but I picked it up to try the PvE for Overwatch 2, and it never materialized. And then after that, I just kind of lost interest in Overwatch. But hero shooters aren't really my favorite. I play them as a bit more of like I play it for a couple of weeks and then just kind of pack it in. And I kind of already have a Marvel Rivals, but I will probably pick it up again at some point. But it's undeniable how much fun that game is, and I just wanted to mention it here and say it's really nice to play. Iron Man was my favorite one to play as, maybe because it was just a little bit too easy to use compared to other characters, but I really do enjoy that this game's being as well received as it is. And people saying it's just because it's a Marvel game, you don't remember the trenches of being a Marvel's Avengers fan in 2020. Man, Marvel is not an IP that guarantees good sales. The Guardians of the Galaxy game was a fantastic game based on reviews. I've still not finished that one, but that did not perform well commercially because everyone thought it was going to be as bad as the Avengers game because everyone assumed it was the same dev team, when it wasn't. It wasn't at all. So Marvel is not as reliable of a moneymaker as you may think it is. It's nice to show you that if people like the brand and the game is good, they will term up. Marvel fatigue is not completely true. It's also not completely false, but as long as the experience is fun, people will show up. Deadpool and Wolverine proved that in the summer. And there you go. That is everything I played to any proper extent in 2024. A couple of things I want to mention at the end. I did pick up Suicide Squad Killer Justice League for £5, the deluxe edition, like the other week. Played about 10 minutes. Not liking that so far. Maybe I'll try a bit more of it at some point. And I also managed to get Dragon Age the Veilguard gifted by a friend. I got about an hour into that and wasn't loving it, which as a Mass Effect fan is yikes. But one of the worst things was the character creator. Did not like the character creator for that game, and the character I made at the end I think looks horrible, so maybe need to make a new one. They're two games I'm hoping to try a bit more next year and just see if I can have any more positive thoughts. And also games that I didn't pick up this year but want to are Astrobot, Game of the Year. I was interested in it anyway, but seeing it pick up the awards just makes me even more interested. Balatro got a lot of love, really would like to try that too. And also Elden Ring. That came out a couple of years ago, but especially Shadow of the Erdtree coming out, feels like maybe I should give it a go. I'm not a big Souls-like fan, but maybe Elden Ring would be a game I'd like to try. But let me know what your favourite and least favourite games were for 2024. Leave comments down below. But thank you all very much for watching. It's been fun to just kind of talk a bit about what I enjoyed this year. It's nice to talk about the things that I like. And whenever I give things criticism, I'm always doing it to try and be constructive. So anytime I've said something bad about a game here, it's because I think it could do better, especially Payday 3. A lot of it is just me enjoying games and wanting them to be as good as they possibly can be. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you all on Friday with a new video. Much love. Thank you all for watching. Happy New Year. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.